Hi, I'm Paul Ford,
And I'm Rich Ciotti.
and this is Reqless, Reqless, the podcast about how AI is changing the world of software. It's brought to you by the amazing software AI-empowered business app development platform Aboard, launching soon. Launching soon. Damn it. We're about to see a good demo right after this meeting. Are you ready?
It's worth sharing with everyone that if you've wanted to see our faces, we're not sure why, but you can now. We are full video of us staring into cameras is on YouTube. So you can find us there. We're also going to make some YouTube shorts that are going to go viral.
We're kind of limping in the light here. You know, by the time you hear this podcast, it might be like 4 hours before it's up on YouTube. But what happened is the people who are really good at marketing have taken us aside and said, "Listen, YouTube's the big platform." And I hate it. You don't mind people looking at your big shiny head. I don't want to.
I don't. You know, it's not that I don't mind. I just don't see the people. I can talk to a room of 2,000 because it could be three.
I feel like a small but overweight dog standing in front of a jury of 100,000 people who are just very disappointed with me because I peed on the floor.
You're at the Westminster Dog Show.
That's what I am. That's how I feel.
All right, let's get a little more attitude here, Paul. All right, well, welcome. Let's play that theme music.
All right, good.
Reqless.
So, Rich, you were going to ask me what I've been working on.
Well, I think it's worth to take a minute and talk about how we work so differently with this stuff these days.
Okay, when you say this stuff, you mean
just grappling with how to understand AI, leverage AI, and go to market with the thing that people want. Right? We're both kind of aiming for the same thing. You tend to open a development environment and play. You just start dancing. You're freestyle jazz music.
My way into the tech industry was I wanted to make publishing platforms. I built them on my own 20 years ago, and then I realized what content management was, and then I turned that into a consulting job, and then I went and built content management tools for magazines, and so like that. That's my way. My way of learning is just to jump in.
Yeah. And by the way, I like to jump in too, but what I tend to do is step back out and think about sort of the business context. So I'm not in there wearing an engineer's hat like you are. I think it's worth saying. I'm just not. And I think that benefits us. I did go in because I wanted to see where the edges were, but then I came back out. But how is it going? Are you having a good time?
Well, I mean, honestly, our business has gotten really busy, so I have a little less time to mess with this stuff than I did. But you know, there's another aspect, and actually, before we move on from that subject, you did some research recently, and you found something important, which is how much of the software development process is actually writing code.
Less than 50%.
45%. According to some, I can't remember where you found it.
It was a meta study. It was actually a pretty big study. It was like 40 to 50, so I just took the number 45. But it's, less than half.
That's
a big deal. Project management, product management, design, UI, UX design. If it's games, model design, actors, motion 3D motion capture of special effects and stuff. Like gaming, it's even smaller. It's interestingly because it's like movie production if it's a serious game. So DevOps, data modeling, data architect, security.
But actually, so to put the last part of the conversation into context, right? Like I go in and I start with code, and it does now. Look, it's 45%. It's the biggest chunk.
It is the biggest chunk.
It's really amazing that a bot you can give it words and it will produce anything at all. Like it'll make code. Oh my God, we're in the future. But when software is like that plus 20 other roles plus a lot of processes, and then users actually using it, and it iterates and changes from there. And I don't like, that's where we're working right now. And I think like
it's complicated. It's
what's
complex,
happening-
and there's a lot of different skills, right?
it's sort of like when it draws you a picture of like a bear, and you're like, wow, drew me a picture of a bear.
Yeah.
It's not really a good picture of a bear. It's wild that it's there, but it just kind of sucks. Like, right now, ChatGPT rolled out a new version, and everybody can make Studio Ghibli style images. Like, oh my God, it's Totoro, but it's Andrew Cuomo. Oh, whoa.
Ooh.
And Cuomo. And okay. But the thing is they all suck, and they're really generic, and by the minute you've seen one, you've seen them all. Like, they're really interesting for about 5 minutes. You're like, that's wacky. And then by minute 10, you're like,
Yeah,
like,
it
we're
gets
getting
pretty predictable pretty fast. It's
we're
actually
getting
fascinating.
really tired of the joke.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
everybody's getting a little tired of the joke, except for like Sam Altman, who's really into it. So anyway, okay, that's another giant conversation. So what I've been working on recently, remember we had Clay Shirky on the podcast?
Yeah,
Love Clay. Clay can just go. He's
gotta have him back on.
right in there with us. I love Clay. And so Clay has this database that he works with. It's called iPeds, which is a terrible name for a data product. And every time I type it in, Claude has like stopped me because it thinks it might be pedophilia content, but it's called iPeds.
God.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm wrestling with that. iPeds is a database that colleges have to put all the data into the box about gender breakdown and what courses offered. And
Oh, I see. So it's a statistical database that like gathers demographic data across universities for one giant blob of information, so we can tell.
Number of faculty, like not just demographic, like a whole lot of information, links to all the mission statements. And
Got
websites.
it. This is an openly available data set that is funded by, I'm guessing, public sector money.
At least so far, right? And so and if you're somebody like Clay, you're really interested in this data set because it helps you. You're at a really big university, and it helps you understand like where higher ed is headed.
Sure.
You can think bigger thoughts, but the data has a web interface, and it's all very downloadable and freely available, and it's filled out like it's mandatory that colleges fill this out as part of I guess probably that's how you keep your accreditation. So it's a really good data set, but it literally was started in 1981, and you can feel it. Like it's the column names are very arbitrary. They're only 8 characters wide. Like as far as and it's only available in Microsoft Access formats, about, I think like 700 megs. So it's a not a huge amount of data, but it is a blob of data. It's very well documented. There is an Excel file that describes every field and what's in it. But it's like really hard to work with as raw data. You can use their web interface, but if you just kind of wanted to do your own thing, mapping or
put a lot of time in. Scrub the
time.
data, normalize lookups so it's not looking at codes, all of it.
All that. So I've now worked on this for maybe like 12 hours, and I have made, frankly, immense progress. Like I've made 6 weeks of
When you say working on this, you're trying to come up with a clean, usable interface to traverse the information?
Very good question. I'm going to get really nerdy for a minute, and then you ask me questions to translate it into civilian talk, okay?
Okay.
Okay. I'm taking the Access database, and I'm using Claude, the
Okay, so it's
chatbot.
Microsoft Access Database.
Yes. And I am feeding it, and so I used Claude to write a tool that uses some open source tools to turn that into a SQLite database, which is much more tractable. I can save, so that's a different format, but it's much easier to script and work with from the command line.
Okay.
And then from there, I've been using Claude to look at samples of the data, look at the data dictionary, and create a more usable version of this data set.
A more human-readable version.
But still very programmery. Like everything is named with underscores, but it's legible. Like a civilian would recognize.
Okay, and you did this because you're just a good friend. You're just a good
but
guy.
Also, this is an ugly migration problem. It's just ugly
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
It's
And it's a good way to test out the capabilities of these incredible new tools.
Well, and it's also we're building a product that accelerates software development, but what happens, and we were just talking about this, what happens after the software exists?
Got to get the data in.
Yeah, nobody shows up. Very, very few people show up empty-handed when it comes to business software.
Yep.
Sometimes they do, but very often. And I think that's another aspect of these tools. It's like they kind of don't have a migration story in general. They're just like, oh, you're going to build a new app. And it's like, well, what's going to go in the app? Stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm now actually kind of at a block because the data dictionary is so large that in order to make the tables readable, because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of columns, I actually can't get Claude to look at the whole thing because it's too big. So I have to, there's a context window. So now I'm working on a way I have to get it to write code. I'm going to make a database of the column names, have Claude write code to rename all the column names based on a query to the database. Like we're in Kooky Town, but I do feel that given probably another 12 hours, I'll get to a really good place. And then
Okay, so you nerded out for a minute
what's really
here.
nice about this? I had Clay give me a couple prompts and or a couple queries. And a lot of the things that we'd like to do with this, like writing the SQL queries around geographic location, so it's hard. I've done it before. And here, if I give it the schema, I'm going to be able to get it to write the queries, and I'll be able to do things with this database that really, really would have been like hours and hours of work in minutes. And that, there's a good target here. Anyway, so that's where I am right now. And you know what that makes me, you know what that is if we're going to draw a larger lesson from it? You ready?
Yeah.
AI is getting a little boring.
That's where you were taking me, because I was thinking to myself, I just started to see listeners dropping off
in real
as
time,
you were talking
like a
through
bad
this.
CNN poll.
Yeah,
during a
and
debate.
I was wondering where you were going with this, and I think you're right. I think you're. What about like all the spectacular headlines about robots that can dance?
If we take a breath, first of all, we got to be clear. Boring is good in technology. I remember once we were working on a project, and there was a client who was not a real technically aware person. And I went to a meeting with this person, and I said something along the lines of, I promise you the platform we're building is really good and boring. And she felt I was referring to the design and the interface, and that I was promising to deliver crap. And what I was actually promising to deliver was stability and long-term maintainability. It's a little language difference between the two worlds. And she reamed me out, and I had to go to Cipriani and get yelled at for an hour and a half because that's what you get to do in client services.
Well, this is how you grow as a client services person.
Never
Paul.
said that again, I'll tell you that.
All right.
But
it's interesting. Yeah.
Boring is good. And here's ChatGPT just rolled out Studio Ghibli and photorealistic bears and whatever the hell, right? But if you really take a step back, compared to when that first version of all this stuff showed up, and it just felt like the computer had come alive in a new way, like it did when it went from windowing interface or mobile in your hand, like just this new modality I've never seen before. It's all incremental now. And they keep promising AGI and something.
Honeymoon's over? Is that kind of what you're saying?
We're adding new features to a database. It's very comprehensible. It's getting more and more comprehensible. It's less like, boy, we don't... because when this first came out, everybody was like, wow, we don't really know how it works. And we kind of do now. Like, it's layers, and there's opacity in the way that it scrunches the data, but you can learn how this works. You can figure out all the pieces, and increasingly you can build predictable systems, not necessarily on top of LLMs. It's really hard to make them perfectly predictable, but you can do the same kind of heuristic processes that you do when you're bringing in real world data and analyzing plain text and speech. You can do those to get stuff into a classic computer model where people are moving cards around on a screen or assigning tasks to each other or all of that stuff. And so there's all this gee whiz and all this novelty, but I'm telling you, let me ask you, and we can pressure test this really easily. Fast forward 6 months, fast forward a year. Is Sam Altman saying, hey, amazing news, ChatGPT can now replace your operating system. You don't need Windows anymore?
No.
He's not. Why not? Because
Well, I think it goes back to. Well, first off, I said that very confidently. I don't know anything. I don't know what's cooking on the 46th floor of OpenAI. Mm-hmm. But I want to.
It's actually vegan bean burgers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think when you say it's getting really boring, what you're really saying is eventually these things peter out and you're kind of on your own with a toolbox. And the same old challenges kick in. And what you end up finding is...
Well, and also at that point, Richard, like the maximum amount of market value has been extracted from the novelty.
Yes.
Like
yes.
IPOs are happening, and now we're all left. It's like waking up after the honeymoon. It's just like, I guess we're married.
I don't want to discount the fact that when you did hit the wall, you got to the wall in like 3 days instead of 5 months. Like the fact that you even got to the wall. Now, you're at the wall. The thing that, if there's one thing to take away, and if there's one thing our graphics design team can use for the cover of this podcast, it's this.
Right, because we have to make YouTube covers now. It's like a whole thing.
You can't dip back into the magic bucket. It's weird. When you dip back in, it's sort of like glitter. It's like glitter you buy from Michael's art supplies. The magic is real. But when you go really far off to the edges of your journey and then you're like, I need more magic. I got to get this across the line. It falls and you're left in a very lonely place, essentially called Microsoft Access Studio.
I wrote about it in the newsletter, and I'm like, this part right here is just programming.
Exactly. Now, let me ask you. Now, here's the thing. Here's where it's really good, and a lot of people have given this advice. Simon Willison has given this advice, which is when you are in no man's land, we should name this place that AI got you and then left you there.
Well, it's sort of the DMZ between human, computer, and...
Yeah, and you're going to be okay for a while because for some reason AI dropped a power bar in your pocket so you can kind of keep going. And you're kind of in this weird place. And when you're in that weird place, the way to use AI is to build you little micro tools to make little steps forward. If you go back in and say, you got it wrong, you didn't finish the job, go back and finish the job. The thing about AI is like, you're right, I got it wrong. Let's try that again. But this time, it'll be in Clojure. Like it'll just...
Yeah, Clojure is a language, by the way, for people. Like this is vibe coding. Vibe coding is like, I'll hit it with the same hammer. See what happens.
Yeah, and the truth is, you're technical. You understand the smaller steps you should take. You know which little functions and little components you need to bring to the forefront to get moving again. That is not trivial. You're talking about this like, hey, I'm kind of vibing through it. You're not. You're 30 years of very thoughtful technical thinking that is now being brought to the forefront. Essentially, the wheel has been handed back over to you. That is just the reality of it. Is that boring? I think it's interesting that we're having this conversation while everyone else is talking about how they built businesses in 45 days with AI and how AI will eventually break into our homes and take our children. Like that is the stranger conversation, and the truth is,
I'm tired of that conversation. I mean, I think, and I'm not alone. I think people are getting a little bored.
You're hearing it less, by the way. I think you're hearing that conversation a little bit less nowadays.
What I think is really interesting is, you always say technology is about skipping steps, right? It's one, trot that one out, old Richard. And what you just said was really interesting because I think it's like, hey, it lets you skip a bunch of steps. It uses a plain language interface, produces a bunch of stuff, and lets you skip a bunch of steps. But you need to actually get better at identifying what steps it doesn't let you skip, and then you got to kind of get in there, and you have to figure out how to get from A to B.
That's right. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
you asked me a future state question. Let me ask you a future state. Will you be able to type in, what is it called? Pedobase?
iPads.
Okay, iPads.
Yeah, yeah.
Will I be able to type this prompt?
Sorry, and by the way, it's the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System. So
Cool.
just couldn't be worse.
That's really cool.
Couldn't be worse. It's got a nice website. They're good. You can go access it.
No, they're doing their thing.
Yeah.
All right, ready? Here's the prompt. Build me a web-based iPad's browser that masks away all the like technical aspects of it and, glossary mapping and all that, and makes it human readable, excuse me, and human usable for non-technical people. And
like that's my prompt.
that's your prompt. And okay, in a year,
I don't think so.
2 years. Oh, that's forget the 2-year question.
But I'll tell you what. Here's what actually has to happen for that. I don't think you get these one-shot solutions without a lot of subsystems. So when you describe that, what I immediately go to is like Claude or Anthropic or OpenAI or Microsoft or whoever. Like you can't get that out of one company, out of one solution. I don't think we're there. So they have to go acquire all those little layers because it's about layers. It's about traversing through different sort of ways of understanding stuff and extracting.
Yeah, but even gluing those layers together is not trivial. It's not like you can throw them all in the box,
what is the outside chance in 2 years? It could be like maybe through acquisitions, a set of problems like that could fall to a prompt. Mm-hmm. I would not. I will absolutely place very big bets, and in fact, that's what I'm doing with you right now. Mm-hmm. I am placing a big bet that development can be accelerated and in the hands of many, many more people. 10x, 5x, whatever, some x, sometimes 100x. And that you can build tools and use those tools much more quickly than before. Absolutely believe some of that's happening. We've proved out some of it. Like we've worked with people doing things for them, and I'm 100% convinced that that's coming. But the thing you just described, like I almost think it's a meaningless question, not because what you said was meaningless, but because like there's so many little abstract things and little bits you have to tinker with in order to even understand what that means, what you just said. And so you will get an opinion. It will write you a report or generate a bunch of code in 2 years, but the odds that it's actually what you need or want, or that it's the right thing for your user or so on and so forth, are really, really low. It might work, but it might not. It's just there's very little chance that it'll be the thing you want unless you go back and iterate on the prompt and get it just right. And again, now you start to. That's going to be what programming is.
Do you? So okay, all right. So you're not seeing AI really eat away at the like. You don't see how it can bring it all together. Is what I'm hearing. There's so many little problems along the way. It has to venture out and deal with them all, right? Like,
I think a more subtle point, and then we should probably wind this one up. But that's not how humans are. Humans can't wrap anything up ever, right? If you had told me 5 years ago I'll be able to tell a computer to make me a Studio Ghibli image from any photograph, I'd be like, that sounds really like an impressive product. And now there's a glut of that trash everywhere, and everybody's angry about it or excited about it or whatever. But it kind of doesn't mean anything, right? Like the next thing will be, can it make me? Somebody's going to make like Totoro, but it'll be Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Joe Pesci will be in it, and we'll be watching that. We'll be like, oh my god, there is no end game with this stuff. There's no like one shot solution, because the minute I come up with the thing you just described, somebody's going to look at it, including me, and go, wow, it'd be really interesting if I could put this kind of query in. Or, I don't really like the way the mapping works. And then the product isn't done anymore.
I see. You don't trust done in the understanding of done.
Nothing has ever been done. The only thing that gets something done, what is the one technology that completes a task?
What?
A deadline.
Yes. A commitment to someone else. Yeah.
So, it's another kind of deadline.
Yeah, no, it could be a customer, it could be a boss, it could be whatever.
I got a
Interesting.
busy early next week, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I should finish this thing and share it with Clay and put it on GitHub and just sort of like make it a project and be done with it.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm gonna let you do something I never let you do.
Oh no.
I'm gonna let you give me a deadline.
All right. Tuesday.
Well, I just said next week early is busy. You know, I'm actually presenting something to you I've been working on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, that's right. Friday.
Friday's good. Friday's really good. All right.
Friday.
Friday, I have a working SQLite implementation that I can walk you through.
Man, we could have a podcast on deadlines, but let's spare the masses.
Because for all the good of AI, it's actually not getting it done.
There you go.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
Right? I needed that deadline. All right, for Friday, let's see.
It was nice to see your face on video, Paul Ford.
Oh my God! And we're gonna have to learn. Like I have to learn to look at the camera, and I'm staring.
Do you have to? I've watched a bunch of podcasts. Nobody looks at the camera. They're all like looking around.
I'd like to make something good that doesn't look like two flibberty gibbets hanging out in their apartment. But that's actually what this is right now. So, all right. Well, maybe we'll just add some videos to it and call it a day. Richard, it was great talking to you. In 9 minutes, we get to go to another meeting.
Always great. Give us 5 stars. Give us thumbs ups. If it's thumbs, give us thumbs. If it's stars, give us stars.
Yeah, you know what?
We're on all the podcasting platforms, and we're on YouTube. And this was just faces talking heads. But eventually, we'll have a lot. It'll be a lot more visual and interactive. We want to dial it up. It's going to be fun.
Well, we'll even have more guests. You'll see their heads.
And check us out at aboard.com. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll get notifications and early invites on the very cool future cut of the platform. So aboard.com.
Yeah, that's true. We'd love to get some beta testers nearby. All right.
Have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Bye.